Live, chance, and prosper. Hi, I'm Dr. Brian David Phillips, and welcome to A Beginner's Guide to Interactive Drama. Now, interactive dramas are a type of role-playing game that has little to do with rule books and dice, and more to do with dramatic elements of role-playing. I've discussed the critical and academic analysis of this type of activity elsewhere. Today, I just want to talk about an introduction to the activity and some of the general concepts related to it. This really is a beginner's guide to interactive drama. There's no dice, there's no rule books for the most part. We just want to deal more with dramatic elements of role-playing. And these elements involve a large group of players who all act out a scenario together. Players are assigned a character and they interact with each other in character. The effect is that all players are simultaneously role-playing, while the game moderator or interactive drama director ensures the game or activity flows smoothly. There's no need for the director to facilitate conversations between characters, as the players are all speaking directly to each other. And there usually are no non-player characters for the director to control. In some scenarios there are, but for the most part there aren't. They're scenario-based activities where all actors have a role to play, and all actors feel as if they are the main character working towards it. There are no lines to learn. This is not a scripted theater piece. This is improvisational scenario work. Think commedia dell'arte, think improvisational theater, but think also role-playing game. Probably the best way to get to understand how interactive dramas work is to play in one. Seriously. And if you're in Taiwan, be sure to go to my site. Or if you're not in Taiwan, go to my site. And if you're in Taiwan, go to my site and click on the Taiwan Troop link and join us for an activity. Just let me know you're interested. I'll put you on the list of folks who get invited to an upcoming scenario performance by the Taiwan Troupe, the longest running troupe for interactive drama and interactive theater in Taiwan. I know this because I started it, and I'm very old. I've been around forever and a day. That's I'm as old as my students at the university say, you're as old as dirt. They don't actually say that, but I know they think it in their heart. The best way to understand interactive drama, play one. And you don't have to have a local troupe. You can just start one. Figure it out. It's wonderful. They're often run at gaming conventions or as separate events because of their size and the time taken to write them. However, if you want to write an interactive drama yourself and find out about them that way, the hard way, I do have some guidelines for you. You can go to my website, www.interactivedramas.info, and there is a scenario archive there of examples you can look at. Some are very complex, some not so much, or just listen to a few concepts I'm going to run over right now. Writing interactive dramas. Ba-dum-bum. Themes. The first step is to choose a theme or genre, and from this should come the setting. The options are unlimited as any other role-playing scenario. Some examples of diverse settings and themes that have been used successfully in interactive dramas have included politics over a disputed heir to a noble family, which could obviously be used in any historic period or any fantasy setting. Celebrity auditions for a Broadway production, school rivalries at the end of the year prom, and a wake following a family member's funeral set in an isolated Gothic mansion. Interactive dramas can quite successfully be taken from books or films that give you a wealth of characters. This could give players a unique opportunity to play familiar characters from well-known stories. Robin Hood, Alice in Wonderland, Inspector Gadget, or other cartoons. I teach a graduate course in Arthurian literature for master's and PhD students. And one of the things we look at are interactive dramas in Arthurian settings with Arthurian characters, of which there are a few very, very good ones out there, worthy of literary discussion. There are also some really crappy ones. We don't look at those, okay? And my students learn the format in that way. All of these topics have been converted to interactive dramas, and many of them have been run at Australian, UK, Canadian, and US conventions for the subject, of which there are many. And of course, in the last few years, we've seen an explosion in the Scandinavian theoretical and critical world, where there are some excellent conferences and some absolutely wonderful journals. And for the conferences, they have live conferences as well as virtual conferences. Great deal going on there. It's an exciting area, Scandinavia, right now. And because of the inspiration they've given, quite a few folks were seeing other areas of the world, their interactive drama community starting to ramp up their own serious exploration of the craft. It's been around long enough now. I mean, it's a young form of theater, but it's been around long enough for folks who have been doing this sort of activity for a very, very long time. And so there is that. I received my doctorate in English and comparative literature in the 1990s. And I focused, my doctoral dissertation was on interactive drama. My dissertation was the first on interactive drama in Taiwan. It's one of the first in the world. It's not the first. I get a chuckle sometimes when some young person who's currently right now working on his doctorate tells me that I'm working on the first PhD in LARPing. And I said, no, sorry, dude, I've had my PhD a long time, and I wasn't the first. I know at least 10 years before I got mine, a young man in Brazil. Well, he's not young now, obviously. He's older than me, so he's ancient. An ancient man in Brazil was working on the subject as well. And so, but of course, there is no discipline for it yet. There is no department of interactive drama yet. I imagine in about 20 years we'll probably see one or two start popping up as more people begin devoting serious work on it. In the Journal of Interactive Drama, we have the JID, we have folks on the editorial board from many different disciplines. And it's a multidisciplinary journal, so of course we do. You're seeing more, and you will see even more. And we're seeing some wonderful things happening right now in terms of academic exploration, but that's neither here nor there. That's another talk, okay? I've got plenty of talks on that sort of stuff. Let's get back to the writing of the beasties. So, lots of topics to choose from, and you can hodgepodge things and mix them together and run some obvious things. The obvious plot lines from stories that would probably be familiar to many of the players should be avoided, or they should be transformed so that you can have some exciting changes and things like that. Interactive dramas should typically concentrate more on a sequel to characters' adventures rather than rehashing old plots. Don't assume that players want to replay the plot of the book. They need to be able to feel as if they're doing something new, and that's particularly true since you have different sensibility in terms of the main character. All of the players play a character equally. There is no one star of the piece, and so while Hamlet must feel he is the major character, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern must also feel like they are the major character, and Ophelia doesn't have to die. She can be the main character who navigates her own path. So it's important that you have a lot of leeway in there and some possibilities for change. Don't rehash the plot. and don't feel that things have to go according to a single particular outcome. You've got to allow for that sort of thing. Okay? Seriously. Okay. So avoid the obvious plot lines. A sequel that works out or an alternative universe approach can work out really well. Role-playing systems with detailed world backgrounds, such as Vampire, Traveler, and Shadowrun, are easy to convert to interactive dramas with many ideas for settings already detailed in the books. You just make them alive. You're probably not going to use the tabletop role-playing books. Those rules are too complicated. Simplify things. Simplify, simplify, simplify. An interesting addition might be to a long-term campaign of a tabletop game is to have an interactive drama or Australian freeform style or multiform style, which combines tabletop with the live action role play, which can be, that's neither here nor there. That is the subject of another different talk. So let's move forward. You probably won't have NPCs or non-player characters. You'll make it more intimate. Now, the size of an interactive drama. Once you've got the setting and themes have been chosen, the next step is to decide on the size of the interactive drama. A small controllable number is best if you're just starting out or if you want to run one as part of your role-playing game campaign or another activity. I use interactive dramas in my courses at the university, so I want to keep them manageable to the size of a class, but also short so that I can use them and then have discussions of other activities and things like that. Between 9 to 15 players works really well for small interactive dramas. There are some for 6 and 8. If you look at some of the published games out there, the murder mystery parties or the murder mystery whodunits or how to host a murder, they'll range from 6 to 8 for the number of characters to play, which is an excellent number. If you're using it in a classroom setting like I would, I could take a 6 or an 8 player game and I can have different groups in a class depending upon the number of students. If I have 1 or 2 extra students, they become policemen, or I give them a runoff character that I can make very quickly for them. And so it can tie in. 9 to 15 is a good number. Interactive dramas that have been written to be run at parties or role-playing conventions are usually around 20 to 30 players, although Egypt Divided, a piece by Robert Pryor, was run at SidCon 1992. It managed to fascinate over 100 players for 9 hours. One interactive drama or live-action role-playing game. 9 hours of play with 100 participants. Don't try this at home, kids. Start small when you start out. Robert Pryor is a wonderful writer. He has written many scenarios for the Australian interactive drama communities, and I've seen a number of his scenarios, and they're absolutely wonderful to look at. Next thing to think about in terms of writing interactive dramas, of course, are characters. Within any interactive drama, all characters will usually fall into groups that may be divided or derived from their social standing, their political affiliations, membership of organizations, or religious groups. And an example of this could be a noble court, where you have the noble family currently in power, other nobles at court, servants, visiting dignitaries, entertainers, and a secret group of usurpers who may be drawn from any of the other groups. Ideas for characters should begin to develop according to their type, and with them their goals. For example, the noble family will want to keep power. The usurpers want to overthrow them. The visiting dignitaries may have secret agenda, and one of the entertainers may be the true prince in disguise. This is where the need for certain characters will become obvious, and characters should begin to be assigned names and personalities. Of course, it may not work this way, and you might start out with a small group of interesting characters and have to build the settings and plots around them, such as when the interactive drama occurs within a campaign, which is a multiple scenario season that goes over time, multiple plays, multiple times of meetings. In my own troupe, we tend not to do campaign-based scenarios. We like to have lots of variety in what we do, so we do standalone scenarios rather than episodic series pieces, so that we can be cowboys one day and we can be aliens the next, and we can be Arthurian characters another day, and play around with all sorts of different types of costume. Fun, fun, fun. But depending upon how you want to handle it, you could indeed run campaign-based. And some of the interactive drama or theater-style role-playing systems actually cater to these kind of seasonal or series-based settings, such as the Mind's Eye Theater from White Wolf Games. Characters and plots will grow the more you write, and you'll begin to develop a network of interlinking plots and characters and character knowledge and background. You cross-reference the information given in character sheets. That's very important. So all characters have some knowledge of all other characters. But where two or more characters have a specific relationship or know another character's secrets, so that you have, I know a little bit about a lot of folks, and I know a lot about a very few. It's vital that the appropriate information is included on the character sheet. For example, Sir Dave and the unhappily married Lady Frances have been engaged in a more than courtly love affair for 6 months, and Lady Frances's character sheet points this out. Okay, it says this has been kept a secret from her jealous husband, Lord Butkus. Unfortunately, Sir Dave's sheet doesn't mention Frances at all, or worse, neglects to point out that she is married and the affair is secret. And if you don't tell these things to the players, then things will not run very well in actual play. So you make sure you cross-reference everything. This could lead to all sorts of disastrous consequences, most especially player confusion. I just ran, the other day, I ran a session with my communication students where there was a murder mystery, and one character was best friends with the daughter of the deceased. Okay? She also had dated the son. All right, so that's a three-way relationship of some sort. Well, the son knew about the dating, and he knew that this other person was the best friend, but he didn't know this was his sister. And that was really awkward and odd, actually, not to know your sister. But that's because there was a hole in the scenario that, as written by the person who wrote the piece. So that's important to include all sorts of information, because the son in this case told everyone that the girl was lying about her relationship to the deceased guy just because she wanted to get the money. Now, she wanted the money for the inheritance, but she wasn't lying about the relationship. She had a legitimate claim according to the intent of the scenario. But if a son who lived with the deceased guy says someone's lying about the relationship, a lot of folks might just buy that. So there you go. Try and keep the size you want in the back of your mind at all times in how you'll handle that sort of thing. Okay? Next thing to look at are plots. There's usually a major plot that is fairly obvious to everyone. The death of a family member in suspicious circumstances, for instance, that's led to the family gathering for the wake. There also should be subplots. And the more characters there are, the more subplots there'll need to be, just to keep folks busy. You want to keep them busy. This may seem obvious, but plots should only be written on the character sheets of those who are directly involved in them or aware of their existence. Others may find out about them through the course of the scenario performance as the interactive drama progresses by interacting with the characters involved, but don't be tempted to tell everyone everything. Let them work for it. Rumor, confusions, and outright lies can also get different characters involved, one way or another, in a plot. It's vital to keep a comprehensive file of all the plots and who's involved in them for director reference. At the end of the interactive drama, it's probably a good idea to have a debriefing session where the designer or director, if the designer's not present, reveals all the plots and often invites players to explain what they were up to, who they really were, and that sort of thing. This is all a chance for the players to find out what everyone else was doing and explain any unresolved plots that folks may be curious about. Allow sufficient time in your session for this, as it can get quite complicated. Props and stage design. Okay, important items which players need to have can be represented either by a tangible prop, a plastic sword, a piece of costume jewelry, a will scroll, a piece of paper, or other document, or by a card with the object described on it. The card system is most practical where the item is something like a pet poodle impaled by gardening shears, which may be a little tricky, not to mention illegal to actually acquire. Money can also be represented by cards or by play money, Monopoly money, or just toy money. If the designers are keen, then props such as a will can be written up in legalese to be read at the appropriate time. Business cards, appropriate for a character, can be made up. Perhaps a plot has been revealed in the pages of a tabloid newspaper, which can be put together and copies distributed around the interactive drama. Scott Beatty has a wonderful piece on Ferret Furor, which you can download at interactivedramas.info. And in it, he's got newspaper clippings that come out periodically, or news on the radio, which you can play around with. Now, these kind of copies distributed in the interactive drama performance itself, they can set the mood, and that's important for interactive dramas. A good interactive dramatist or designer will cast a critical eye over the stage for an interactive drama. And think of it, how it can be dressed up to look appropriate. Wall hangings, mood lighting, and appropriate music all assist in suspending the player's disbelief. Now, since a large portion of interactive dramas are never ever actually performed on a proscenium stage, they're in someone's home or they're in a convention hall, thinking things through beforehand can really be helpful. Directors. As a general rule, interactive dramas need about one director for every 10 people playing, unless you have a very experienced person shepherding a relatively small group. You either ask your friends to help. If the interactive drama is written by a group, then that's fine. All of the writers can help direct. If it has been decided to write as a group, different people can be responsible for writing different characters or sections, but collaborations on plot and information must occur. Otherwise, characters would be misled and confused if their information conflicts or leads nowhere. Directors spend most of the time arbitrating on conflicts between characters and responding to questions from players concerning the boundaries of the interactive drama. what actions are allowable in the game, whether or not actions can be taken outside the interactive drama area, and other such questions. The directors should also be pushing the action along, announcing any main events that may occur in the interactive drama. Okay, kids, the prom starts now. Or, oh my goodness, we see an iceberg coming toward the ship. Or whatever is appropriate for the particular scenario your players are involved with. Playing an interactive drama. All the players are given a character description, which usually includes a personality, history, and goals. They also are usually given some knowledge or information of the other characters, either all the other characters or a selection of those they know. It is a good idea if players get their character sheet in advance, so they have a bit of time to prepare their costume, if any. This also allows people to become familiar with the background of the scenario and plot complexities. Reading character sheets 10 minutes before play often means people will forget details that could be more important. Of course, it's important to point out that some short pieces are designed so that people get their character sheets right then. For instance, a wonderful, wonderful piece by Morgana Colling is set up so that players may know what the general character type is and which clan they belong to, but they don't have to know the specifics of their character until the day of, because the character sheets are actually quite short. That works out really well. But something like Return to Oz, a piece with character sheets that are 15 pages long, you're going to want to give them their information much earlier. Okay? With the information, once the players have their information, they're let loose upon each other. And the fun commences, especially if they have goals and things like that. Scenario is usually played out in a large area, and hopefully with costuming, and ideally with makeup, but not always. If the players are into the spirit of things, remembering a large number of character names can be alleviated by providing name tags. And I typically do that. I give them name tags for all the players, so the characters then interact with all of the other players, and this may take some time, especially with a large number of people, as characters struggle to find information and allies to help them with their goals. This is done at a personal level between characters, with major conflicts being dealt with by a director. Of course, characters often have conflicting goals and politics. Yay! So deceit and bargaining play a large part of the game flow. And since I teach social influence and negotiation, that ties in very, very nicely with those sort of courses. So after all this, does it still sound confusing? Interactive dramas can be described as plays without a script, but with plots, characters, costumes, and props. Or they can be barely organized chaos, but at least everyone has a good time. And that is the most important thing. And that is the beginner's guide to interactive drama. I hope you've enjoyed this. Go ahead and remember to check out www.interactivedramas.info and play and let us know how it goes. Live trans and prosper. Bye-bye.